미디어 관계자 여러분들께 진심으로 감사의 말씀을 전합니다. 뉴캐슬 유나이티드는 창단 133년 만에 처음으로 대한민국을 방문하게 됐고.
Well, Tuesday morning and eve of the game here in Seoul and heading to Eddie Howe's press conference, going to attempt to get the metro there. So let's see how I get on.
You can transfer to Sweet Punta Line. K-의 한국의학연구소 건너입니다.
Well, we've just heard from Eddie Howe here in Seoul in his press conference ahead of that match against the K-League 11 tomorrow night here in Seoul, and yeah, it was a strong statement from Eddie Howe, almost in some ways, you know, fired at Liverpool about Alexander Isak. It feels at the moment that there's only one team Alexander Isak can sign for, and that is Liverpool. Obviously we don't want that from a Newcastle point of view, but you know, as long as this speculation goes on, as long as this situation continues, Eddie Howe's going to be answering questions on it. And you know, he seemed well prepared for what he said today, saying there's been no formal offer, there's been no bid, he's still our player. And that's what Eddie Howe, you know, stated very clearly to not just myself, a few other journalists from South Korea who were in the room. And yeah, you know, for a press conference that was initially meant to be about promoting 2 games in South Korea, we spent a lot of time again talking about Alexander Isak. But Eddie Howe very strong with what he said. Also on transfers said it's still got to be the right price, it's got to be the right situation, or Newcastle, you know, won't be adding players to their squad in the next 34 days, and that, you know, is going to be a bit of a worry for Newcastle. But look, big strong message from Eddie Howe on Alexander Isak here. We move on to that second game tomorrow night here in Seoul against K-League 11. So I'm just leaving the press conference room where Eddie Howe was just giving some strong opinions on the Alexander Isak situation, and yeah, it's something that is just constantly, you know, going to get mentioned in press conferences as long as Isak remains away from the squad. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens next on that subject. But ultimately for Newcastle fans, the message from Eddie Howe in there: no formal offer, no approach, and still our player. They were the words of Eddie Howe, just speaking in the press conference ahead of the game tomorrow night against the K-League 11 here in Seoul. Eddie Howe also saying that basically every transfer has to be the right criteria for Newcastle, and it has to be done in a certain way. And 34 days left of the window, you can understand why Eddie probably is looking a little bit anxious on transfers. But you know, for him, it's been a tough summer, there's no doubt about it. But yeah, Newcastle must now stick with their philosophy, I think. But ultimately 34 days left, that is not a long time in transfer terms. They've already struggled to get a number of deals over the line. Things are starting to crank up a little bit behind the scenes. So yeah, got the metro back from the press conference. Really impressed with the whole system, very efficient. Once you know where you're going, of course, that's always a big factor. But yeah, impressed. Quite reasonably priced as well, £1.90 for a ticket. Can't go wrong.